Is rapture true or just a misunderstanding of Scripture? Listen to Dan McClellan.
The concept of the rapture was created in the 19th century based on a misunderstanding of a passage from the New Testament. This concept begins with John Nelson Darby around 1833, and he's developing an idea about what the second coming is going to be like based on a triangulation of a number of different passages from places like Daniel and the Gospels. But his main text is 1 Thessalonians 4:17, which talks about how the dead are going to be resurrected as Christ descends, and those who are alive will be snatched or caught up with them in the clouds to meet Jesus in the air and be with him forever. And according to Darby, this is some sudden event that is then going to result in everybody being taken off to heaven. And this fundamentally misunderstands the imagery that Paul is using. Paul's reference to this meeting, the word there is apantisis, is a reference to a specific convention from the Greco-Roman world, where a Roman ruler would return triumphantly to a city, and as he's approaching, the inhabitants of the city would all file outside the city walls to meet him and then usher him into the city. It's similar to the triumphal entry of Jesus described in the Gospels.
In addition to that, the triumphal entry of Jesus was created from the Jewish royal and prophetic tradition. And you can find that in Psalm 118, verse 25 to 26, in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9, and 1 Kings chapter 1, 34 to 35.
And so Paul is reorienting this idea vertically and suggesting that as Jesus descends from the heavens, people are going to be caught up to meet him in the clouds and not go off to heaven, but then descend back to earth so that Jesus can take up his rule on earth. So Darby fundamentally misunderstood what was going on there and developed this idea about everybody suddenly being snatched up and flying off to heaven. And that became pretty popular within Protestant Christianity for a while, but then began to fade. And these days it's really only popular among American evangelicals, and primarily because of the identity marker that it has become and how useful that identity marker is for boundary maintenance within American Christianity. But unfortunately, it has caused untold harm and anxiety for people who grew up being terrified that they were going to be left behind while everybody else just one day vanished. And again, the entire doctrine was a creation of the 19th century based on a misunderstanding of the imagery that Paul was using in 1 Thessalonians 4:17.